So let's get you moving in the right direction. Welcome to the first video in the series on the 3-part training on dry eye. So I've been talking a lot about dry eye, and I've talking a lot about getting yourself into that space where you can actually start structuring a specialty clinic in your practice and making a difference in your business. Right, so this first video is all about getting going. I want to empower you guys to be able to walk into this space and get your businesses up and running. So watch this video. Please watch the whole video all the way to the end. There's a lot of great tools and resources for you to use and get going with this in your practice. Also below this video, there's some links to some free template downloads, so check that out. And be sure not to miss out on all the great stuff below. Right, so hit the subscribe button also to not miss out on the next one. We're going to go through 3 videos. This one is the start. The next one is going to be all about nuts and bolts, all about getting things structured and making sure you've got everything in place. But watch this video and let's get you into this specialty system and get your business growing. So I'm going to unpack the business model by showing you how I do what I do and how I have been able to achieve this consistent increase in revenue into my business, and how you can also do the same. Now, there's just 2 points I want to touch on before we get going. The first thing is that this is not some clever gimmick. This is going to take some effort. You are going to have to put in some time. You're going to have to put some effort in. You're going to have to learn some new skills, teach yourself some new techniques. You're going to have to spend time practicing. Then the second thing is, my goal and my main goal in this whole thing is that I want to see you succeed. I want you to succeed because I want your patients to get the benefit of what this can actually do in your practice. As an industry, I think we have a radical opportunity to change so many people's lives who are living with a condition that is seriously affecting their lifestyle, affecting their quality of life. And we have such an enormous role to play there. And this can be our inheritance as an industry. Now, I wanted to just share a little bit of my story with you guys, for those of you who don't know me and who don't know where I've come from. I've been a business owner in private practice since 2010. And very early on, I realized that this constant struggle with medical aid payments and low profit margins was going to be a huge problem. I mean, if you look at what we get paid for certain products, that barely covers our cost. In this picture, this is basically how I felt every day after getting home from work. The stress of trying to make ends meet, just paying the basics, just getting the salaries paid, and then hopefully walking out with some form of profit for myself at the end of the month. I couldn't continue to fight this medical aid struggle, which is something that I realized that it's almost impossible to win. And now, even while we're in the middle of this worldwide COVID crisis, things just seem to be getting worse. Cost prices are rising on average of 20 to 30%, but the medical aids are not forthcoming with increasing their benefits. So for me, I started looking at different ways of increasing my practice revenue. In 2017, I attended a conference, and there I saw something I knew that could work, but it had to be implemented correctly. So I went back to my practice and I started reading, started trying things, experimenting and learning, and finally I implemented my own dry eye clinic, and that's where everything changed for me. Within 3 months, I was generating an extra 15 to 20% income per month, but the best part of this was that I did it without also increasing my expenses. So in this chart, you can see a representation of my annual turnover from 2017 to 2019. And what is highly noticeable is the fact that not just did the turnover go up by a huge margin, by about 20% every year, but the expenses, which is the bottom line, actually didn't. The expenses only went up by about 5 or 8% versus the actual turnover increase, which was a huge amount more. What this meant for my practice is that this extra turnover was pure profit. My annual turnover continues to grow consistently without me having to spend more. This has allowed me many freedoms, like spending half days at work 2 or 3 times a week, which allows me more time with my family and my children. And what's probably more profound is that I am almost free from working to fit into medical aid benefits. Now, I know what you're thinking. It can't be this easy. But the truth is, actually, it is. And in the current economic environment we find ourselves in, we as an industry has to start reinventing ourselves. Now, there's a few things you don't need to do to get started. The first thing is that you don't need to go and buy expensive equipment or software to manage dry eye. You can really get going with the basics and whatever you have around. Of course, in the long run, you will need to update your equipment to really become a specialist in this field. And there's some tests you just cannot do without the relevant equipment. But you can first build your client base and then let that pay for itself. The second thing you don't need to do is you don't have to have your staff trained right away. I know as a practice owner, that was something I struggled with a lot because I just didn't have the time to get my guys trained up. This should not stop you from getting started. I promise you that I will be walking this path with you and that I will help you to get your staff up to scratch when the time comes. Another thing that you don't need is an extra qualification. Now, we touched on this a little bit earlier, but let me just remind you that 95% of the available dry eye diagnostic and treatment procedures are within the scope of optometry. It's only the scheduled eye drops, and like I said before, co-management is very doable. With a sound knowledge base and some practice, you can also be a dry eye specialist. So what is the first step you're going to take to actually turn your practice into a dry eye practice? Firstly, you're going to have to start incorporating screening procedures within your comprehensive exam. This will show your patients that you do more than just the general, and you can start educating them on the problem. And this leads them down a path where they will actually become part of your dry eye system. So what are these screening things that you would do? So firstly, what you would actually do during your comprehensive exam is you would just add 3 extra things. The first thing is a lifestyle questionnaire. Now, lifestyle questionnaires are things like your speed questionnaire or your OSDI questionnaire. And what this does is it just shows you how badly your patient's quality of life is affected by their symptoms. And this is a very big indicator of whether they require further management. Then you're going to do a tear breakup time and a staining pattern, which should already be part of your normal slit lamp work. When you do a slit lamp, this is something that is just part of your flow, and it's not going to take you a heck of a lot of extra time. At the end of these extra screening procedures, at the end of your comprehensive exam, you will make some time just to discuss this with your patient and show them that you have picked something up that maybe no one else has. And more importantly, that there is something that you could probably do for them to actually alleviate these symptoms. And this is where your sincere care can really change a person's life. Don't promise anything that you cannot deliver. For example, I'm going to cure your dry eye problem. You rather want to say something like, I would like to put you through a vigorous testing process to find the cause of your problem. There are very few patients who are struggling with symptoms and struggling with discomfort who's going to turn around and say to you, oh no, guess what? No thanks. I'll just carry on suffering the way I am. What then will happen is if they acknowledge the fact that there's a problem and they agree to follow your further testing, you will then book them into a dry eye workup. This is a full diagnostic batch, and we will go through this in great detail in the next video. And what this will do is it'll just allow you to classify them adequately and then formulate a perfect treatment plan for them specifically. The dry eye clinic is the term that I use for the treatment process. So once you've screened them, you've realized that there is a problem, you have now seen them in a workup, which is your diagnostic assessment, you want to try and classify them, then you are going to actually formulate a treatment plan, and some of the treatment actually has to occur in office. and that is the dry eye clinic. Whatever treatment you then perform on them in office and that needs extra time from you, this will be done within the dry eye clinic. So you will have them back and do whatever procedure it is that they agreed upon to manage their dry eye problem. Now, don't lose sight of what the most important part is. This is to add value to your patient's life. So if your patient decides not to do any further treatment or not to do any further testing, they still need to walk out after your consult feeling empowered and better off than they did before. Now let's get back to my initial statement, how to increase your turnover by 20%. And let me show you how easy it actually is. So let's use an average monthly turnover of 200,000 Rand. 20% of that is 40,000 Rand per month. So let me show you how easy it is to generate that extra 40,000 Rand per month with this method. So firstly, say for instance you see 2 new dry eye patients a day. Now in research it says that 30% of the population might suffer from dry eye problems. That would mean that 1 in every 3 patients that walk through your door could possibly have a dry eye problem. So to see 2 patients a day is really not going to be that hard. So this is just based on assessment only. I'm not including any treatment options, only assessment charges. Okay? So you're seeing 2 patients a day. You are going to charge each patient 1,000 Rand for their assessment, for their full assessment. And again, we will go through the detail of this in the later video. But at 2 patients to 2 patients at 1,000 Rand per patient makes 2,000 Rand extra per day. Now, if you take that 2,000 5 days a week and you multiply it by 4 weeks, you get to your 40,000 Rand a month. Now, obviously, it depends on how busy your practice is. The more patients you have through the door, the higher this number can get. And you know what the best part is? There is very little extra running costs. So this is pure profit. Again, we will go through all of this in great detail in one of the following videos. So please stick around and make sure that you watch those as well. So guys, that is the overview of the dry eye practice and how it can become a great practice builder. I hope that this video has given you great value and that you can actually go and implement some of these things straight away. In the next video, I'm going to show you exactly the clinical steps on how to become more efficient with your dry eye patients. We will go through all the steps of the workup process, plus I will be answering some more of your comments and questions as we go. And then finally, just before you go, I've got one last request. I would like you to please go at the bottom of this video, you will see there's a comment section. Please go and leave any comments or questions that you might have related to this topic, related to dry eye practice, dry eye diagnostic procedures, or anything like that, that you need some info about, or that you just want to leave a comment on. Just go and do that straight below this video on the comment feed. I will either respond to the comments and questions on the feed directly, or I will include the answer in the next video.